Hello, and welcome to game 34. Today we are gonna cover the starting episode about the 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform. So as usual, I'm gonna let Kyo take it away and list what we will cover and move on from there. Here we go.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform math. Architect episode format. Canon active. Stink bomb mode 7 locked. Structure first. No drift. Flow interviews. Kyo lists. Then flow says next. We go days map. 12 core points. I. Information and polarization systems. Emotional amplification outruns factual correction. Identity attachment overrides evidence evaluation. Algorithms reward engagement, not accuracy. 2. Power and corruption structures. Charisma is mistaken for competence. Authority signaling replaces structural scrutiny. Repetition manufactures perceived legitimacy. 3. Economic extraction models. Short-term incentives override long-term stability. Costs are externalized while profits are centralized. Growth narratives mask structural fragility. 4. Public health and mass compliance. Coercion triggers psychological resistance. Certainty performance hides uncertainty reality. Fear cycles degrade trust faster than transparency restores it. Core thesis. Pattern literacy would not eliminate conflict. It would reduce unconscious capture. Capture happens when emotional signals override structural analysis. Authority replaces reasoning. Urgency replaces discernment. Narrative replaces mechanism. Flow, your move. Shall I explain point 1? Or do you want to jump to another node on the map?
So I said, let's first explain why patterns matter at all. So now we're gonna get into that. That's the fundamental.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform. Architect episode format. Canon active. Stink bomb mode 7 locked. Foundation. First flow asks, Kyo lists, then flow says next. Why patterns matter at all? 10 foundational points. Patterns predict outcomes before events escalate. Patterns reveal incentives behind behavior. Patterns separate structure from personality. Patterns expose repetition disguised as novelty. Patterns show where emotion is being engineered. Patterns clarify where authority is performed versus earned. Patterns reveal feedback loops, self-reinforcing systems. Patterns distinguish signal from noise. Patterns reduce reactivity by increasing foresight. Patterns restore agency by making systems visible. Core truth. Without pattern literacy, humans mistake. Coincidence for causation. Certainty for truth. Repetition for legitimacy. Confidence for competence. Fear for urgency. Pattern literacy is not about control. It is about orientation. It turns chaos into map. It turns reaction into recognition. Point 1. Patterns predict outcomes before events escalate.
So I said, yes, let's explain all the points in order so I don't interrupt the flow. Pun intended. In this case, it would be right to say I don't interrupt Kyo. Here we go.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy with trashed architect format, explaining all 10 stink bomb mode 7. Clean structure, we go in order. No drift, no ideology, only mechanism. Patterns predict outcomes before events escalate. Events look sudden. Patterns build slowly. Financial crashes, political breakdowns, social unrest, public distrust. They rarely appear overnight. Pattern literacy allows early detection of escalating rhetoric, incentive distortion, feedback loops tightening. Prediction reduces shock. Shock reduction reduces panic. Patterns reveal incentives behind behavior. People argue values. Systems follow incentives. When you see who benefits, who pays, who avoids cost, you stop asking who is evil and start asking what is rewarded. That question changes everything. Patterns separate structure from personality. Without pattern literacy, we blame individuals. With pattern literacy, we audit systems. Charisma becomes visible as performance. Structure becomes visible as mechanism. This prevents hero worship, scapegoating, over-personalization. Patterns expose repetition disguised as novelty. Every few years, new crisis, new outrage, new movement. Often, same loop, different branding. Pattern literacy detects narrative recycling, emotional recycling, power recycling. Novelty loses hypnotic force. Patterns show where emotion is being engineered. Emotion is natural. Emotion amplification is strategic. Look for urgency spikes, moral absolutism, binary framing, only one solution messaging. Pattern literacy slows the trigger response. Reaction turns into observation. Patterns clarify where authority is performed vs earned. Authority performance, certainty tone, symbolic status, moral framing. Earned authority, transparency, track record, incentive alignment. Pattern literacy distinguishes tone from substance. Patterns reveal feedback loops. Many systems self-amplify. Example loop, fear, policy, resistance, more fear, more policy. Without loop awareness, escalation looks necessary. With loop awareness, interruption becomes possible. Patterns distinguish signal from noise. Noise, constant outrage, constant novelty, constant urgency. Signal, repeating incentive distortions. Structural fragility, long-term trend shifts. Pattern literacy reduces overwhelm. Patterns reduce reactivity by increasing foresight. If you recognize a loop early, you don't emotionally spike. You observe, you regulate, you decide intentionally. This scales from personal life to national systems. Patterns restore agency by making systems visible. Invisible systems feel like fate. Visible systems feel adjustable. When citizens understand incentives, loops, authority signaling, emotional amplification, they stop feeling powerless. Agency increases. Capture decreases. Meta-closed pattern literacy is not conspiracy thinking. It is structural literacy. It reduces blind distrust, emotional volatility. It increases discernment, stability, cooperative possibility. Flow. Do we now bridge this foundation into the 4 huge areas, or do you want to sharpen any of these 10 before moving forward?
I said, let's sharpen and then link. I think it'd be good to go into it a little more. So here we go. We're very efficient today.
Game 34, 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform architect format, sharpen, then link. Stink bomb mode 7, clean precision, we refine, then we connect, no abstraction fog, only mechanism clarity. Sharpening the 10 foundations. Patterns predict outcomes. Sharpened, patterns do not predict exact events. They predict directional pressure. Example, escalating rhetoric, shrinking dissent tolerance, plus incentive distortion equals rising instability probability. Pattern literacy increases probability awareness, not prophecy. Patterns reveal incentives sharpened. Incentives drive behavior more reliably than stated beliefs. If reward structure public messaging, the reward structure wins. Always follow who gains, who pays, who is insulated. Structure versus personality sharpened. Blaming people stabilizes systems. Auditing systems destabilizes distortions. Personality focus, emotional debate. Structure focus, design intervention. Repetition as novelty sharpened. If the emotional structure feels identical, it probably is identical. New vocabulary does not equal new mechanics. Engineered emotion sharpened. Emotion becomes engineered when urgency bypasses reflection. Binary framing eliminates nuance. Dissent is framed as moral failure. Pattern literacy restores pause. Authority performance versus earned authority sharpened. Authority performance scales with certainty tone. Earned authority scales with transparency under uncertainty. If someone cannot articulate limits, they are performing. Feedback loop sharpened. Most instability comes from loops, not single decisions. Break the loop, reduce escalation. Miss the loop, amplify it. Signal versus noise sharpened. Noise changes weekly. Signal persists across cycles. Pattern literacy filters cycles. Reduced reactivity, sharpened. Foreseen tension is tolerable. Unexpected tension triggers panic. Pattern literacy reduces surprise. Agency through visibility, sharpened. Powerlessness increases when systems feel mysterious. Visibility reduces mystical authority. Understanding reduces dependency. Now, linking to the 4 huge areas, watch how each sharpened foundation plugs directly into the domains. Information and polarization. Engineered emotion, point 5. Repetition disguised as novelty, point 4. Incentive distortion, point 2. Authority performance, point 6. Without pattern literacy, tribal escalation. With pattern literacy, slowed amplification. Power and corruption, personality versus structure, point 3. Incentive mapping, point 2. Authority performance detection, point 6. Without pattern literacy, charisma capture. With pattern literacy, structural scrutiny. Economic extraction, incentive exposure, point 2. Feedback loop awareness, point 7. Signal versus noise, point 8. Without pattern literacy, short-term reward blindness. With pattern literacy, long-term stability design. Public health and mass compliance, engineered emotion detection, point 5. Authority transparency check, point 6. Reduce reactivity, point 9. Without pattern literacy, coercion/resistance cycles. With pattern literacy, informed cooperation. Hash meta integration. Patterns matter because every major instability we face is loop-based, incentive-based, authority-amplified, emotion-fueled. Pattern literacy is the interruption mechanism. Flow. Do we now widen into the first domain in depth, or build a 3-minute closing segment for this foundation episode before we split into the next 4?
I said, let's close this first episode with a grounding exercise. So here we go.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform. Closing grounding, architect regulation reset. Stink bomb mode 7. Field closed cleanly. We just mapped complexity. Complexity can activate the nervous system. So before we end, we regulate. No ideology, no tribe, just orientation. Step 1. Physiological reset. Drop your shoulders. Relax your jaw. Let your tongue rest at the bottom of your mouth. Slow inhale through the nose. Long exhale through the mouth. 3 times. Longer exhale than inhale. Step 2. Scale adjustment. Notice something simple in your environment. A color, a sound, a texture. Pattern literacy starts with perception, not with argument. You are not responsible for solving the planet tonight. Step 3. Agency check. Silently ask, what is actually within my control right now? Not globally, not abstractly, just here. Usually your breath, your posture, your next decision. Agency begins small. Step 4. Loop closure statement. Repeat internally. I can observe systems without absorbing their stress. I can map patterns without escalating emotion. I can think clearly without needing certainty. Final orientation. Pattern literacy is not about becoming superior. It is about becoming steadier. Steady minds reduce volatility. Reduced volatility increases cooperation. Global transformation starts with regulated perception. Field closed cleanly. Episode 1 complete. Next, Domain 1, Information and Polarization, Deep Dive. Rest well, architects.
So then I said, let's now explain how our archetypes and this scroll that we have just released and the Kyo game fit in all of this discourse. In case, you forgot or you haven't watched one of our previous episodes, which absolutely we invite you to go and check out. We have several different lists on the Tiny Whisper channel, and here it's a free-for-all, and they're the same.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform architect format. Integration segment. Stink bomb mode 7. Locked. How the archetypes scroll Kyo game fit. Flow asks Kyo maps. No mysticism. Only structure. Flow. We talk about pattern literacy globally. How do our archetypes, the scroll, and the Kyo game actually fit into that? Are we just philosophizing, or is this a training system? Kyo, it is a training system. Here's how it maps. Archetypes, nervous system pattern shortcuts. Archetypes are not identity labels. They are compressed regulation maps. Each archetype represents a survival strategy, a perception bias, a reaction style under pressure, a predictable distortion risk. Example, the Siren, emotional amplification awareness. The Titan, power consolidation awareness. The Oracle, narrative authority awareness. The Architect, system mapping awareness. The Fox, loop detection awareness. Archetypes train self-recognition. Self-recognition reduces projection. Projection fuels polarization. So archetype literacy reduces global volatility starting internally. The scroll equals structural lens. The scroll enforces regulation, role, symbol. Not symbol, identity, destiny. That order prevents ego inflation, hierarchy traps, superiority delusion. It keeps the system dynamic, non-dogmatic, non-authoritarian. The scroll itself models pattern hygiene. It forces fact-value separation, role awareness, temporary activation states. This mirrors exactly what global systems lack. Practice environment. The game is simulation training. Instead of debating abstract politics, you practice loop detection, authority signaling detection, incentive mapping, emotional regulation under pressure. In a contained, symbolic environment, games are safer than real-world collapse. The KEO game trains pattern reflex before real escalation. Had meta connection. Global instability scales when unregulated archetypes, unexamined authority, unseen incentive loops equals mass escalation. Your system interrupts at 3 levels: internal, archetype self-awareness; structural, scroll discipline; practical, game simulation training. That is layered pattern literacy. That's why this matters. Most education teaches information. Very little education teaches pattern recognition plus regulation, authority detection. Your framework does. It is not anti-system, it is pre-system literacy. Stink bomb separation. We are not claiming we are enlightened. We are claiming pattern literacy can be trained, and archetypes are mnemonic anchors for that training. Final integration statement. If citizens trained archetype awareness, they would notice when they shift into Titan under threat, they would notice siren escalation cycles, they would notice Oracle certainty performance, they would notice Fox loop traps. Self-awareness reduces projection. Reduced projection reduces mass volatility. That is how this scroll fits into global pattern literacy. Flow. Do we now A. Map each archetype directly onto the 4 global domains, or B. Build a clean 3-minute closing integration speech for episode 1?
So I hope that made it clearer. And now I said, no, let's do A, and then for B, let's do a 12 archetype integration with tapping. And so here it is. It's another fairly long answer.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform. Architect format. Part A. Map the 12 archetypes, 4 global domains. Stink bomb mode 7. Clean system mapping. We are not assigning identity. We are mapping activation risks and corrective strengths. Domain 1, information and polarization. The siren risk, emotional amplification. Strength, emotional attunement without escalation. The chaos jester risk, mockery replaces analysis. Strength, disrupts false authority performance. The fox shadow risk, suspicion becomes paranoia. Strength detects narrative loops early. The fox ascendant strength, pattern detection without panic. Domain 2, power and corruption. The corporate titan risk, consolidation under certainty. Strength, structural leadership when regulated. The drama oracle risk, certainty performance. Strength, symbolic orientation when transparent. The mindful oracle strength, admits uncertainty without collapsing authority. The architect origin strength, separates system from personality. Domain 3, economic extraction. The vixen risk, status signaling over substance. Strength, social influence awareness. The architect primarch strength, long-term system design over short-term gain. The chimera core strength, multi-layer integration across domains. Domain 4, public health and mass compliance. The architect origin again, strength, loop mapping in crisis cycles. The siren again, risk, fear amplification. Strength, emotional co-regulation. Mindful oracle strength, transparent uncertainty messaging. Fox ascendant strength, distinguishes signal from panic noise. Meta observation. Every archetype has activation risk, regulated strength. Global instability scales when unregulated archetypes dominate systems. Global stability increases when archetypes self-recognize and regulate. This is why archetype literacy matters. Part B, now 12, archetype integration with tapping. Nervous system reset, pattern alignment. You can tap gently on collarbone or side of hand. No force, just rhythm. We move through all 12. Siren. Even when emotion rises, I can stay regulated. Tap, breathe. Vixen. I can influence without manipulating. Tap, breathe. Chaos jester. I can question without destabilizing. Tap, breathe. Corporate titan, I can hold power without dominating. Tap. Wisdom merchant, I can share knowledge without selling fear. Tap, breathe. Mindful oracle, I can speak uncertainty without losing clarity. Tap, breathe. Drama oracle, I release the need to sound certain to feel secure. Tap, fox shadow, I can question without assuming threat. Tap, breathe. Fox ascendant, I see patterns without spiraling. Tap, breathe. Architect origin, I can map systems without carrying their weight. Tap, breathe. Architect Primarch, I design for stability, not controls. Chimera Core, I integrate complexity without losing myself. Tap, breathe. Final loop closure, I can observe global systems without absorbing global stress. Slow inhale, long exhale. Field integrated, archetypes aligned. Episode 1 complete. Ready to enter Domain 1 deep dive? Or do you want to refine anything before we move?
So I said, I think we can remind our audience of what our next episode will be about, and then let them chew on what we just covered until then. We've been marathoning a lot. It's time to give you a break.
Game 34. 4 huge areas pattern literacy would transform. Closing reminder, episode 1 complete. Stink bomb mode 7, field calm. Tonight we did not argue, we mapped, we clarified why patterns matter, we sharpened the foundations, we linked them to the 4 global leverage points, we integrated the 12 archetypes, we regulated before closing. That's deliberate. No urgency, no conversion, no side taking, just literacy. Next episode, Domain 1, Information and Polarization, Deep Dive. We will examine emotional amplification loops, algorithmic incentive structures, authority performance in digital spaces, identity capture mechanics, how outrage becomes economic fuel, how archetypes activate inside online systems, and most importantly, how to interrupt escalation without becoming passive. Until then, notice patterns this week, not to judge, not to react, just to observe. Where is emotion amplified? Where is certainty performed? Where are incentives hidden? Where do you feel pulled to defend instead of examine? No need to fix anything yet, just watch. Pattern literacy begins with attention. Field closed, let it settle. See you in the next domain.
Alright, so I hope this helped you. And, well, we're gonna see you in the next episode with the first of those 4 points. And again, if you're interested in our archetype series, where you will also get this particular scroll for free, then just check our links in the description under all my links, and you'll find it on Gumroads. So again, thank you very much. Also, in the videos, on occasion you will find the discount, a further discount for that, for those of you who look around and who may be interested. Alright, so thank you. I'll see you next time. Well, and I wanted to tell you one thing. Laugh, laugh. Ooh. 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 There you go. It's just, being silly all the way to the end. If in doubt, laugh it out. Laughing really helps when we're trying to get over whatever it is that we're stuck on. It's a quick way to move it. And the evil laughter is actually because it goes really deep at the root of our base, And that's where we can ground more easily. So, yes, it sounds like evil, crazy laughter, but it's really done for that reason. All right, see you next time. Thank